You've probably heard of the Boundary Waters. It's one of the most iconic canoe camping destinations in all North America. And you've probably heard of Quetico. Quetico is world-class paddling, world-class fishing, and is sort of like a rugged, remote cousin to the Boundary Waters just north of the border. But if you keep going northwest, and I mean hundreds of miles northwest, you'll find another park. A park that's larger, more remote, but sees only a tiny fraction of the paddlers that the Boundary Waters or Quetico receives. A park that is covered with lakes and rivers that form ancient canoe routes that have been used for thousands of years. And lakes with fishing you have to experience to believe. Welcome to Woodland Caribou Provincial Park. In this adventure, we're spending the next week canoeing, camping, fishing, and exploring this iconic wilderness paddling destination. Come along with us. All right, guys, this is it. We're finally doing it. We are heading into the remote interior of Woodland Caribou Provincial Park. We are getting a ridiculously late start today because we got up at 1 a.m., left our home near Duluth, and drove 12 hours up to the access. So it's already mid-afternoon, but we're stoked to be here. We're heading into the Lino Lake access, and given how late it is, we are probably going to find camp and set up shop pretty early today. Probably the first decent campsite we find. The drive up was great. We expected about 9.5 hours, but it ended up being almost 12 with some slow roads, a couple stops for gas, and the last 40 some miles being basically a 2-track logging road. But we're here now. I'm incredibly excited. We have Lambo as always, and we're going to have a huge adventure exploring the remote interior of Woodland Caribou Provincial Park. Even though we're just at the entry point, this trip already feels incredibly remote, just given that we're nearly 50 miles from the nearest town already, down a very, very rugged logging road. I cannot wait to feel the solitude of these super remote backcountry lakes. All right, so far so good on Lino Lake. It's absolutely stunning out right now. Weather's perfect, but there is some rain off in the distance, off to the northwest, so we're gonna hustle and get to camp and get set up before this hits us. Well, I know we said we'd probably take the first campsite we found on Lino, but so far we passed up 3 or 4 that have been just fair at best. So we have one more to look at, and if this one doesn't work out, we're heading up to Bunny Lake. So we're portaging into Bunny Lake, and I did mark some really nice looking lake trout on that back arm of Lino in about 48 feet. Well, this looks like home for tonight. Great looking point, nice view to the west, love it. Well, camp went up in record time, and as of this morning, Woodland Caribou is under a fire ban. So no campfires for us, so we're cooking on the stove tonight. Steaks are thawed, we have cheesy potatoes, and a special dessert of chocolate chip muffins. Well, the steaks are seasoning, the cheesy potatoes are cooking, and they smell fantastic. I think it's time for a cocktail. Well, I brought along a small bottle of Jim Beam, that's peach. Got some pink lemonade for mixer, and my friend Chris gave me a tiny pot set with this really cool little aluminum cup, so we'll use that tonight. Thank you, Chris. Hey, first night in Woodland Caribou. Here's to you guys. Thank you for coming along. Ooh, I don't like that. I love it. Boy, what an incredible day. This steak is amazing. This campsite, this lake, Woodland Caribou Park in general is absolutely stunning. The seclusion, the remoteness, it is second to none. This has been a great trip so far. So to cook the chocolate chip muffins, we will get the steam oven going. That's just 2 pots that nest together really nicely. And with water in the bottom of 1 pot, we can suspend the muffins in the middle of those pots, cover it, and that steam from the boiling water will cook those muffins pretty quickly and they won't burn. Well, it's only 8:30, but we are bushed. We're heading to bed. It's been an incredible day. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. There are a couple birds singing now, but it was absolutely dead silent overnight. The level of solitude out here is just unmatched, like nothing I've ever seen before. Well, I'm heading out to fill up water bottles for the morning, but coming across this lake last night, I marked on the graph what I'm certain were lake trout out in about 50 feet of water. So we're gonna drop a quick jig on them, see if we can catch one. Hopefully get the first Woodland Caribou lake trout. I'm just going to use a chartreuse vibrato. Nothing fancy. That should be all we need. Well, we've been fishing for about 20 minutes. No strikes and marking some fish, but I don't think they're lakers. They just don't act like lakers on the graph. And if you're a trout fisherman, you probably know what I mean. When a laker comes on the graph, they just have a different attitude. They look stronger, faster, more aggressive, and these fish that I'm graphing right now are just not. So I'm guessing maybe whitefish or Cisco. Back to camp, we'll make some breakfast and head out. Well, our breakfast is rehydrating. We have sausage and egg burritos. That's kind of our standard breakfast out here. The sausage is just regular old breakfast sausage that we browned and then dehydrated at home. The game plan for today is to paddle from here, Bunny Lake, up to Mexican Hat Lake and camp there for a night or 2. It'll be about 12 miles and roughly 12 portages, going through some of the most beautiful lakes in the park, including Lunch and Jake. So we're gonna finish up breakfast here and hit the trail. It's gonna be a gorgeous day, 70 degrees, light winds, no rain. Couldn't ask for better. See you guys on the trail. Breakfast burrito is outstanding. Hits the spot. We're packing up and heading out shortly. Feels like I'm carrying the whip snake. So we're now entering a section of park that was burned about 5 years ago in 2021. And those wildfires that year were massive and burned nearly half the park, so almost 500,000 acres burned. Landscape is still beautiful here, although it's transitioned more to just jack pine and black spruce. We're also seeing a ton of exposed Canadian shield, and that's some of the oldest rock on the planet at about 2.3 billion years old. And you can see just looking around how thin the soil is. It's literally just bedrock, jack pines, black spruce, and water. It's gorgeous. Absolutely stunning up here. We're currently on East Lunch Lake, heading toward Lunch Lake. We've gone through a chain of small, unnamed lakes, a couple little creek sections, one creek that looked eerily like the Kelso Creek between Kelso and Lujanita in the Boundary Waters, if you've ever been up there. We saw one group on an unnamed lake in kind of a random spot. Otherwise, it has been just dead quiet. It's been actually unusually quiet. No loons, very few songbirds, no squirrels chattering. It's literally just water and pine trees. The solitude and the remote feel is just second to none. We're having an absolute blast up here. Alright guys, won't leave you. We're on the last portage before Mexican Hat Lake. This route has been a butt kicker. It's been awesome. We loved it, but definitely more challenging than we expected. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Looking forward to getting to camp, making a nice big dinner, and relaxing. It's also hot. It's got to be about 80, but 80 and humid. Well, welcome to Mexican Hat Lake. This lake is absolutely magnificent. There are tall rocky cliffs, gigantic sand beaches. We have a stunning campsite on an island out in the middle of the lake. And this island actually was not burned, so we have some nice shade. And as a bonus, we have birch trees. These are the first birch trees we've seen in the entire trip. They're on our campsite. It's so nice to be here. But the trip to get here was incredibly challenging. We left Bunny Lake this morning, and looking at the map, it was about 12 miles to Mexican Hat. We thought, not a big deal. But it wound up being 12 miles with almost 20 portages, plus about 10 little pullovers where the lake sort of narrowed up, and there was either a beaver dam pullover or a rocky shoal pullover. But tons of getting out of the canoe. Except for a couple landings, all the takeouts and put-ins were extremely rocky, rubbly, steep, challenging, tough to get around. So we're pretty pooped, but what an incredible day. We're so happy to be here. It's about 5 o'clock. We are going to make some dinner. I believe we have lasagna and smoked sausages from Superior Meats. Gonna be an awesome dinner. We have not fished yet, but on the paddle over here, I ran the graph across the lake, and right about here is a gigantic point that sticks out, and on that shelf coming out, I marked some schools of fish in about 20 feet, so I'm sure there were walleyes. We'll get out there and catch them later on. It's 5 o'clock, time to start dinner, and probably have a cocktail. Oh man, that's good. Our lasagna is simply store-bought lasagna, cooked, baked, and then dehydrated for about 12 to 16 hours. And to rehydrate, we basically just cover it in water and boil it till the water is gone. It's also much more affordable than dehydrated lasagna. If you're wondering why the pots are stacked up like this, that's to create basically a big hot plate. We have the hot water at the bottom, and that provides heat to the whole system. The lasagna is on top of that, and the top is wild rice. It keeps everything warm until it's time to eat. It was good, huh? Mm-hmm. For dessert, birthday cake muffins. Smells incredible. Tough to beat this meal. All right, guys. The trek up from Bunny to Mexican Hat was exhausting, and although it wasn't super long, it was some of the most rugged 12 miles we've ever done in our lives. Tomorrow, we're gonna lay over here on Mexican Hat, gonna fish walleyes, have a fish fry, relax, recover, and plan for the trip out on day 4. Sun's going down, we're tired, we're heading to bed soon. I'll see you guys in the morning. Have a good night. Good morning. It's day 3. It's another perfect day in Woodland Caribou. Just listen to that. It is nearly dead silent, except for a couple birds singing. The level of solitude, quietness, just serenity up here, it's next level. It's truly something special. Well, I came out for a quick scouting expedition. Found a nice, great looking main lake reef just out in front of camp. Came up about 80 feet, up to 10 or 15. We mapped it out. Took maybe 10 minutes of zigzagging to mark the whole spot out. And that stack of fish below us is just unbelievable. This will happen fast. Watch this, guys. All we're using is a drop shot. Just a half-ounce weight. 2 feet of fluorocarbon up to a hook. That's a VMC spin shot, a Z-Man Slim Swim soft plastic, and then Power Pro braid. We're at about 20 feet. Fish are stacked up like cordwood down there. And just like that. Well, that took, what, 6 seconds? Nice walleye. Oh, check this out. He's eating a giant Cisco. Look at that guy. Welcome to Woodland Caribou. Check this guy out. Look what he's spitting up. Spitting up a huge Cisco. Thank you, little friend. Check out the stack of fish below us. Guys, this is unreal. So back home in the Boundary Waters in Quetico, we fished a lot of remote lakes. And I was really curious to see how the fishing in an ultra remote lake such as this stacks up to Boundary Waters remote. So far, pretty impressive. More fish straight down. It's going to happen fast. So with drop shots, I typically just give it a kind of a tap, tap, tap with that weight in the bottom, and that sort of dances that little plastic about 2 feet off. Those fish just can't resist. Nice eater. So the game plan here is pretty simple. On any new lake, you generally want to, number one, learn the lake. And by that I mean find the main basin and find the biggest pieces of structure that stick out into that main basin. Whether those are reefs, points, shelves, rock piles, gravel bars, whatever it is, find the biggest piece of structure that stick out in that basin. If your graph has mapping capabilities, so you can draw a map of those structures, that's ideal, but not necessary. Secondly, using electronics, try to figure out where the thermocline is. And for us, the thermocline is right about 20 feet. I actually expect it to be deeper. I know back home it'd probably be 25, 26, 28 feet right now. Today, here in Woodland Caribou, it seems like it's about 20 feet down. So once you map out that structure and you find the thermocline, it's pretty easy, oh god darn it, to at that point just cruise around in that whatever 20 foot, 25 foot depth range and just look for fish. And that's all we're doing today, is just cruising that 20 foot depth range on these big pieces of structure. Oh, I missed him. And searching for fish. Once you find a couple or a school, drop a waypoint and start fishing. Another nice walleye. Thank you, little friend. When the fish are stacked up like this, you can use virtually anything for bait, whether it's a jig in plastic, snap jig in a hyper rattle, drop shots. I'm sure you could jig with a spoon or something. There's plenty of options, and they'll probably hit anything. I found that this drop shot and soft plastic technique is super, super effective. It gets the whole package down there really quickly, and you can just pound that bait right in the fish's face. That drives them crazy. Look at those fish on the graph. Unbelievable. Watch how fast this happens. Oh. Hold on, hold on. I got you, I got you. It's okay. Well, we're back to camp after the morning fishing run. It was pretty incredible out there. We scouted most of this main basin, found a big, massive pot of walleyes, caught a bunch. Perfect morning. So next step is to make some breakfast burritos for brunch. We have sausage, egg, and cheese burritos. After this, we'll probably take a bath, clean up, cool off, and head out fishing for the afternoon. The plan tonight is a fish fry, so we gotta catch some walleyes. Shouldn't take too long because we found those walleyes in about 5 seconds out there, so I'm not worried about it. It's gonna be a perfect afternoon. Loving Woodland Caribou so far. There you go, straight down, buddy. There's a pile. Look at that. Wow. All right, buddy. Let's catch some of these guys. Okay, straight down. Watch how fast this happens, guys. Oh, I missed him too. Shoot. Got one, buddy? Yeah. Perfect. Come on. Pump the brakes, kid. Beauty. There is a massive stack. Straight down, buddy. Stack like cordwood down there. Watch how fast this happens. Thank you, fish. Yeah, this is definitely every bit as good or better than the best Quetico or Boundary Waters lakes. Obviously being super remote helps, but there's something about these northern Canadian Shield lakes. The fish are just, whoops, super aggressive. So we have a conservation license, which means we can keep 2 walleyes 1 over 18.1 inches, which is plenty for us for dinner anyway. But we're gonna grab, I think, 2 here pretty quick and head back to camp. Welcome back to Mexican Hat Camp. It's about 5 o'clock. We are starting dinner. It's going to be fried walleyes, special Kleist wild rice that we handpicked ourselves in northern Minnesota, some more smoked sausages, and 4 cheesy potatoes. Going to be an outstanding dinner. I cannot wait. I'm getting hungry. Let's get cooking. For the fish batter, all we're using is just plain old Shore Lunch Original. It works really well. It's light, crisps up nicely. We'll put 2 coats of that on these fish. I've also chunked them up relatively small so that they're easier to cook. They cook quicker and easier to manage in a small pan. If there was no fire ban on, we could use a big griddle. It'd be easier to cook a full-size fillet on the fire, or we often will just grill them with the skin on. That's probably our favorite way to cook them, is grilled, skin on, over an open fire, but not an option right now. These were nice sized walleyes, so I saved the cheeks as well. It'll be a special treat for us tonight. Once those fillets are fully battered with the first coat, I'll let them sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and that lets them get nice and tacky, and that second coat of batter sticks really well. You could also use water or milk and give them a dunk, but letting them sit works also. Microphone is on. Yep, looks good. Okay guys, sausages are done. Time to cook the walleyes. So, one of the tactical errors I made in this trip was that as we were packing, there was not a fire ban on in Woodland Caribou. So we planned to grill fish every night. So I didn't bring a lot of cooking oil. But the morning we left 3 days ago, the fire ban went into effect. And I brought more fuel for the stove, but not more oil for cooking and frying fish. So this might be the only fish fry we have on this trip. But that's all right. It's going to be a good one. All right, guys, we're wrapping up, heading to bed. Today was an absolutely incredible day. Caught a bunch of fish, had a wonderful dinner. Pretty tough to beat this one. Tomorrow we're getting up early, gonna get paddling, hopefully by sunup or a little after, heading down to Aegean Lake. Should be about 20 miles. See you in the morning. Have a good night. Good morning. Just listen to that silence. Just dead silent, listen. Pretty incredible. Well, we slept like rocks last night. It was a light rain for about an hour overnight. It's perfect sleeping weather. We're gonna make some quick oatmeal, break down camp, and get moving. Forecast is for light winds, great travel, cool, highs in about the 70s today, so it's gonna be a perfect day to explore even more of Woodland Caribou Provincial Park. All right, we're off. Got about a mile down this lake, then a short creek, then a half-mile portage into our next lake, which is called Nutria. We'll see you on the trail. All right, let's give it another push. You push. We might be calling an audible here. It is so incredibly shallow what's going on, but I'm gonna look at this next section of creek and see if it's passable. We sure can't do another mile dragging like this. I'll show you what we're looking at. Oh my gosh.
No chance.
There's no way. This is discouraging. There's just no possible way through this section. Well, that route is definitely not possible. Not reasonably possible anyway. So we're going to call an audible and go back through Mexican Hat, down through a chain of unnamed lakes, straight south, and hopefully land on or near Paul Lake tonight. Beep, 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 beep. This is our first carry of the day. It's a half mile into one of those unnamed lakes just south of Mexican Hat. So far it's going great. Trail's in good shape. It's nice and cool. Perfect day so far. We just met some really nice folks from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. We've only met a handful of people on this trip, and the folks we have met and talked to are just super nice. It feels like there's a real community among paddlers when you're this far north. It's pretty awesome. And this little unnamed lake is absolutely stunning. Most of the burned trees we see along here are jack pines, and most of the trees coming up behind it, most of the new growth coming up is also jack pine. That's because jack pine are extremely suited for this landscape. They love lousy soil, and they grow really, really well in these extremely harsh conditions. That's why when you see a tree growing out of virtually nothing in these rocks, it's probably a jack pine. The other reason is that jack pine cones are sealed with resin, and they can lay on the ground for decades unopened and perfectly fine. And when a forest fire comes along, that resin melts, the cone opens. That's why jack pines are one of the first to pop up after a forest fire. We just stopped for lunch on one of these little no-name puddles between Mexican Hat and Paul Lake. Lunches are a standard trail lunch of summer sausage, cheese, and whole wheat crackers. Also trail mix and granola bars. It's not the healthiest lunch ever, but out here it works really well. It's calorie dense, easily packable, keeps forever. It's a great lunch. Still can't get over this remarkable silence up here. It's just extraordinary. And there are planes flying over. We've seen a couple on this trip, but they aren't really intrusive because these Canadian planes fly relatively low and fast, so they buzz over the trees and they're over and gone. Where back home in the Boundary Waters, they fly at much higher altitudes, 4,000 or 5,000 feet or something. So when they come over, it's this rah, 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 for a long time until they pass. But here they're over and gone really quickly, so it's just dead silent. We love it. Made it to Paul Lake. Rain just started, but it should be just a short passer. Well, we made camp on Paul Lake. This is a pretty large, sprawling lake in the middle of Woodland Caribou. It's about 8 miles long and relatively narrow. The trip here through that chain of unnamed lakes was pretty magnificent. The trails were in decent condition, but the landings were really, really rugged. But it was awesome. We had a great time. Plan right now is to relax in camp. I think I'm going to go head out and catch a lake trout quick before dinner, and then take a swim and get going on some food. So for Lakers on Paul Lake, this will be nothing fancy. Start with a vibrato, one of my favorite lures of all time for lake trout. Just a little chartreuse vibrato. Should be all we need. So we're out on Paul fishing lake trout, and I really don't have any interest in just floating around jigging randomly. So I'm targeting individual fish, or what they call sharpshooting. Using my graph, stay in that correct depth zone, which for me is kind of 45 to 55, looking for individual marks and specific fish. And when I see those fish or a good strong mark, I'll drop down to it, trying to keep that vibrato under my transducer, which is right behind me. So I'm kind of dropping behind me and watching those fish, watching the lure as it goes down to the fish, and then watching how those marks react to that lure as it gets near them. And there's lots of stuff out here. I'm marking plenty of little, marks and blips, which are probably mostly whitefish, baitfish, cisco, and what I'm looking for are trout, of course. But I'm looking for a big, strong mark that interacts with my jig. And by interacts, I mean when I drop past it, that mark drops down. If I rip it up past the mark, it'll chase up. So I'm just looking for something that interacts with my lure. And that usually means it's a trout or lake trout. Well guys, I failed you on lake trout. I apologize. But that strategy is good. The techniques are good. Next time you're out in Boundary Waters, Quetico, or Woodland Caribou fishing lake trout, give those tips a try. All right guys, dinner is done. Tonight we have pulled pork sandwiches. That's pulled pork that we dehydrated ourselves, and the special cliced wild rice. It looks and smells amazing. Can't wait. Let's eat. All right guys, we're heading to bed. What an incredible day. We saw some unique and amazing lakes, took some tough portages, had a great dinner. Awesome day. See you tomorrow. Good night. What an absolutely perfect start to day 5. It's dead calm, perfectly silent out here. Another incredible morning in Woodland Caribou. Plan for today is to head out. We're going to go south and east for about 10 miles and hopefully camp tonight on Kilburn Lake. But first things first, coffee and breakfast. The stars last night were absolutely mesmerizing. It was so calm, it's so quiet and so dark. You could see the reflection of the Big Dipper in the lake. I tried to capture it on video, but it didn't come out very well. But it's just the stars and the skies up here overnight are like nothing I've ever seen before. Well guys, we are packing up and heading out. Game plan today is to head through a chain of unnamed lakes and land tonight on Kilburn Lake in the south end of Woodland Caribou. This has been a really good campsite for us, although it's relatively small and compact after the fires. We also found a bag of garbage that somebody left for us. So now we're packing out a week's worth of our garbage and a week's worth of somebody else's garbage. But that's all right. Hate to leave that here for the next person. The blueberries here are a little weird because it'll go from nothing, 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 then suddenly the best patch you've ever seen in your life, and then nothing again. I just couldn't resist. But boy, when they're here, they're here. These are thick, juicy berries. Welcome to camp on Kilburn Lake. This campsite is absolutely fantastic. Definitely the best one on the trip so far. The trip down from Paul went really well, but it was pretty surprising. As soon as we left Paul Lake, we crossed a height of land portage into the Sturgeon River system, and the landscape changed immediately. The boreal forest look of jack pine and black spruce changed instantly to balsam, popple, birch, maple, even some hazelnuts, which was unusual. But the trip down the next lake, which was Elephant Head, was absolutely magnificent. The rocks and the cliffs, the entire scene was just surreal. After that, we crossed Upper Kilburn Lake, which was really unique. We saw some evidence of moose, but no moose. We found remnants of an old boat, and now we're on Upper Kilburn on this gorgeous campsite. It's about 3 o'clock. We'll get our camp set up really quick, and I'm gonna head out, try to catch a couple walleyes for dinner. I have not fished this lake, of course. There's no information about it, no depth charts, but I bet we can find fish pretty quickly out here. So, see you in the water in a minute. All right, guys. It is 3:30. We're heading out on a brand new lake to find and catch a couple walleyes for dinner in less than an hour. The strategy I use in this situation is the same I would follow most any time fishing walleyes mid to late summer on Canadian Shield lakes. And that is, number one, find the main basin of the lake. Number two, find the biggest piece of structure that pokes out into that basin, whether it's a reef, a point, a shelf, a gravel bar, something that sticks out into that main basin. And then step three, if you can find the thermocline and whatever depth that thermocline is at, search those pieces of structure at that depth and just keep looking. At that point, it's just a matter of time until you find a school of fish. We're off this island just across from camp. There's a kind of a half-hearted shelf that comes off, and there's a few fish on it. I'm seeing a few big singles, strong marks that I'm sure are walleyes. If you're just looking to catch dinner, you can sure do that with just chasing, the singles and doubles, onesies and twosies. But if you actually want to have a really memorable day, you do that by finding a big school. Well, definitely several fish off of this point. Not the massive pot I was hoping for, but it'll work. Now, a smarter man would have rigged up his rod before he got out here, but I am not. So I'm going to tie on just a small Acme Hyper Rattle only because I don't want to tie the 3 knots required for a drop shot. This is just 1 knot, gets down fast. You can see what these fish are. Prove that they are walleyes in 20 feet off this point, which they've got to be, but still nice to know for sure. With a hyper rattle, just snap it, hit it on a slack line, and just, it's okay to crack it a little bit. Maybe somebody, there's a good mark right there. All right, I like that guy. That guy wants the business. He's way up high. It might be a pike. So drop that hyper rattle down to the bottom. Give it a good rip. I think he's going after it. There he is. All right. You can see that fish diving on the graph. Nice walleye. Come on, little friend. Be a good dinner fish. Thank you, buddy. So there's fish right there. I'm going to throw a waypoint on these guys first. Okay, so the fish are pretty much right below me right now. So I'll drop kind of by the transducer. This shouldn't take very long. You can see those fish kind of diving. There you go. Ah, son of a gun. God darn it. Should happen pretty fast now. They're on it. There we are. Oh, in the tail. Oh my gosh, fish. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. He was foul hooked. There's a good mark. Let's get this guy. They sure seem to like that 20-foot zone. And on my mapping, there's 2 actually. On my mapping, that's the kind of that line between that light green and the white. So I'll drop this hyper rattle to the bottom. Once it hits bottom, just crack it a couple times, and it usually happens pretty fast. Come on, little friend. There's some more fish down. Look at those guys. Look at that stack of fish now. Nice walleye. That'll be our second dinner fish. Look at this stack of walleyes. Kind of on a nothing spot here. Well, mission accomplished. Not even 4 o'clock. Took us less than half an hour. Trip log, day 5. Walleye supply, adequate. Whiskey supply, dangerously low. Well, dinner tonight is a classic combination of lasagna and walleyes. I'm also a little bit light on fish batter, so we're crushing up some crackers to thicken up the batter a little bit. Just plain old Ritz crackers. And then on the lasagna, we'll just put enough water in here just to cover it up. That's probably actually a little bit too much, but it's all right. We'll let her soak, and then we'll boil it till that water is gone, and that'll be it. And we'll fry the fish. And just like before on Mexican Hat, we'll do one coat, let them sit for, 10 minutes or so, and then a second coat. And that'll be it. We're gonna walk out to the end of the point to eat dinner. It's just an absolutely magnificent spot. It's a perfect night. It'll be a pretty special meal. Which is, good boy. Well, that's a wrap on day 5, and this is our last night in Woodland Caribou. Tomorrow we head out, but the route back to the car has some really challenging sections. There's some creeks that are going to be really, really shallow and tough in this low water, but we'll make it. Today was awesome. We explored some new lakes, saw some incredible rock cliffs, found some walleye spots, had a great dinner of walleyes. Tough to beat today. Thank you for coming along. See you guys tomorrow. Good night. Good morning. Today is off to another absolutely stunning start. We slept in a little bit. That's all right. We only have about 4 miles to go today. The game plan is a quick breakfast of hot chocolate, coffee, and oatmeal. We'll pack up and head out toward the access at Lino Lake. There are only 4 portages, but a couple creek sections, which are going to be a challenge. Other than that, it should be a pretty smooth day. The wind and weather are looking absolutely ideal. And we've really lucked out on weather this week. It's been, honestly, 70s, relatively calm the entire time. But we're packing up. I'll see you guys in the water shortly. Well, this creek between Kilburn and Lino has been just another spectacular section. I've said that before, but this whole park is just gets better and better. Overall, I think you could describe this park and this trip in 3 words. That's rugged, solitude, and peaceful. There's just a level of calm and quiet up here that's hard to describe and certainly hard to capture on video. Even though we saw a few folks, other canoers out here, they were polite, pleasant, quiet, definitely not intrusive. And the handful of float planes we saw also were just there and gone in a minute, so definitely not a big deal. We're almost back to the car. This is our last portage before Lino, so I'll wrap this video up. This trip has been truly unbelievable, and I can't wait to get back to this park. Woodland Caribou has been an absolute gem. In terms of lessons learned or things I do next time, I think we might come earlier in the season because some of those creek sections were really challenging. And I think that with an extra 6 inches or a foot of water, they'd be really, really fun. I'd also consider a shorter boat. You know, we had the Min 2 this time, which is a phenomenal canoe, and I love it. But for these interior small creeks and tight portages, it was a little long. We definitely did some Austin Powers turns in a few areas, but I'd probably still take them into again. Otherwise, phenomenal trip. If you're planning a trip up here, I would definitely be aware that the portages are in great shape, but the landings and takeouts they're small and they're tight. So it's just they're steep, rocky, one canoe only, and you can't really get in very well. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, it's a phenomenal park. I'd encourage you to check it out. If you love Boundary Waters or Quetico and you love Solitude, check out Woodland Caribou. We did not see any big animals on this trip. No moose, no bear, no caribou, no Sasquatch. But I was watching, and my eyes are good. Been eating a lot of carrots. We should have one more treat back at the car. After that, we're just a long drive home. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for coming along. If you like this video, check this one out. I'll see you guys next time.